Hello guys, welcome to my shop and thanks for watching. Today I'm going to be replacing the reed valve pedals on my YZ250 two-stroke. These little carbon fiber things, go in your reeds. And the bike has just over 100 hours on it, so I figure now's a good time to replace them. I mean, I very well might be replacing them a little bit too early. I don't know yet. I did a top end about 10 hours ago and they looked in good shape, but years ago I had an 06 KX250 two-stroke, and man, that's a sharp bike. The motor on that's really good. Too bad the steel frames don't hold up very well, but beside the point. I replaced the revalves on that for no reason. I would say about 120 hours I had on it at the time, and just for no reason I had some new ones and I popped them in, and I noticed the bike revved out further, cleaner, and just generally made more top end power. And that kind of showed me that even though your revalves look good, they're closing completely, they're not chipped or frayed or anything, that some new crisp carbon fiber reeds can increase your top end pull if your old ones have gotten fatigued. I don't know if these are fatigued yet or not, so I'm just going to go ahead and replace them at 100 hours, and when I take the bike out this weekend, I'll be able to tell. If it feels the same, then, well, I did it for no reason. But if it feels better, then I know that it was a good thing. And at that point, I can kind of log, okay, if it feels better, then I definitely don't want to run them longer than 100 hours at my level, my skill. But, if it's the same, then I can probably have gotten away with running them longer. I think every rider is different in this. I've seen some riders just completely destroy reed pedals in like 40 hours just by the way they ride. It's usually the ones that kind of like hold the bike at its fullest RPMs consistently. And then I've seen some that just kind of last forever. So it's really dependent on the rider, so you got to figure it out for yourself. But yeah, so we're going to dig into it and see what we got here. I'm sure revalves are basically a one-way valve. I have a theory of why it does limit your top end power when they get tired and old, and the theory is I had a bike come to me that was running poorly, and it was just running rich, and it was a good OEM bike. Nothing's been changed on it. I recently did a top end on it, so I know it was a good bike, and there was no reason for it to be running that rich. And I pulled the air boot off. I pulled the air boot off. I'm sorry, the seat off and the air filter off, and I noticed that that when I would rev the bike, I could see gas as I was looking down through the air filter area. And here I had the air filter off. I could see gas go shoot back up and then get sucked back in the motor, shoot back up and then get sucked back in the motor, shoot back up and get sucked back in the motor. And that told me that these one-way valves, the revalve here, is supposed to be one-way valve. It's supposed to only let the flow go in to the crank area, where then it gets compressed and shot up into the top end where it gets combusted. It's supposed to first go in through here through the one-way reed valves that only allow it to go in but not back up. So I pulled his reed valves out and found them all lipped up and not seated well, popped some new reed valves in it, and it fixed it right up. But what that showed me was if these things don't close completely or don't close quick enough or they're not snappy enough, a little bit as it's sucking in the air for its next combustion cycle, when it goes to compress that in here, if it pushes it back up through this reed valve, which it's not supposed to be able to do because the reed valve is supposed to be able to seal it off and keep it from going back this way, but if it is allowed to, the same flow that pulls gas from your carburetor when it's going through, if it goes backwards, it'll pull flow too. So that extra gas that was pulling was shooting up, was going up in here, and then on the next intake cycle, it would pull not only gas from the carburetor again, but also the gas that was shooting up into the air filter area. So you'd actually almost like get pretty much double the amount of gas, and that's will make them run rich. And then if you've ever tuned a two-stroke before, you know that as you go richer in the jetting, you can actually start losing top end power, and as you go leaner, you can start gaining top end power to the point that you get too lean, obviously. But so that's my theory why fresh, good, crisp reed pedals will keep your top end running clean and strong, because it will promote the motor not to run rich. That it can run rich when they get old and loose, and so fresh ones will keep that from happening, which keeps your top end at its peak performance. So let's get to this. First thing I'm going to do is take off the seat here and the lower bolts for the subframe. I'm sorry, also the silencer, because what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to tilt this whole subframe up a little bit to get the intake boot off the carburetor. I mean, there's, as you know, there's more than one way to skin a cat. I could just loosen this carburetor up right here and really work it out. I've done it before, you know, just working out between the intake right here and the boot for the air filter boot. But during the reassembly, I might get a little OCD on it, so I kind of want everything out of my way pretty good, and might as well just go ahead and take it apart this way. So let me get started on that. Okay, so I have the silencer off, the bottom subframe bolts on both sides, and the seat off. Now I'm going to loosen this Phillips right here and get that off the carburetor. Alright, just loosen the Phillips here. And now I should be able to take the swing arm and pivot it up and off the carburetor. There it is. Get her up a little bit. Alright. So you can see I have the boot off the carburetor, the back side of the carburetor, by pivoting the subframe up. Now we're going to go ahead and finish removing the carburetor. Alright, get back to the other side of the bike here. I'm going to go ahead and move this rubber boot up and disconnect the two electrical connections right here for the carburetor. These things can be difficult to get out sometimes. I like to use a flathead press. There we go. Of course, I'll clean that up before I put that together. You can see all the. I'm sure. Well, you really can't see. My hands are in the way. There's a lot of dirt and stuff. Let me go ahead and disconnect these. All right, I have these disconnected because I'm going to pull this whole carburetor out. Like I said, I'm going to get a little OCD at the end of it. All right, now I'm going to loosen up the throttle cable where with the 8mm right here. I'm going to screw this all the way out so that it's loose. There you go. See, I loosened that all the way up. I'm not sure if you can see in there. Yeah, you see the throttle cable connects to the top of the carburetor. I loosened that all the way up where I can wiggle it around in here. The reason being is so I can loosen this up, spin the carburetor this way to take the two Allens off on the top so I can remove the whole slide. Obviously, it could be easier if I pulled off the whole tank, but I'm kind of taking the approach as if I was at the track doing jetting on this for whatever reason. It's just the way I'm choosing to do it today. Alright, now I can spin the carburetor towards me. I have access. Oh, they're Phillips actually. I don't know why I was thinking these were Allens. But sure, a little dirty. I should be blowing these out. Let me see if I can get some grab. If not, I will blow it out. Yeah, let me blow that one out real quick. Hopefully that did something. Alright. Like I use this method when I'm at the track when I want to make needle clip adjustments and stuff. I don't take the whole carburetor off. I can just spin it this way and pop this sucker right off. There she is. Of course, I'll be cleaning all this mess out too. She's pretty dirty. Alright, set that up over there out of my way. Now I should just be able to pop this carburetor right off. I have all the electrical wires disconnected and everything. Come on, girl. Alright. Alright, there's got to be a way to wiggle it out of here. There usually is. Oh, you know what I forgot? It makes it a lot easier on these bikes when you remove that. Let me go ahead and take that off. I always like to use an impact driver in these. Keeps you from stripping them out. At least just get them loose with that, and then you can just use a screwdriver and remove them. Okay, let's try this again. Here we go. She's coming. Put the hoses down here. Got the heart of the bike right in my hand. Check that out. Alright. Got the carburetor out. Now we can focus on the revalves, and I'll clean the carburetor up and stuff before I put her back in. I'm going to be using an air ratchet here with a swivel Allen key on it. It's a 5mm socket. Oh, ooh. Gotta get it in the hole. Uh-oh. I might not be using this after all. Alright, work on that one. Let me see. See if I can get it in that hole good enough. No, I can't. Let me try a regular on that one. I'll come to that last. Working on all the other ones, I don't know if that one was partially stripped out from a previous. Let me get the last one here. Well, I'll be damned. Sometimes you gotta do things by hand, it looks like. I use this with a regular Allen head on it, not a swivel, and it bit okay, so. I can usually use these swivels on this, but today it just didn't work out. So let me go and continue removing these by hand, and we'll get the reed valves on the bench. There's my problem. He's always blowing them out. I didn't get all the dirt out. It was, you know, tough to get that tool in there and blow that out. But that's why it wasn't sinking in far enough and bite good enough. Doesn't look like I damaged them, so I'll reuse them. But anyway, these are the reed valves assembly. So you have the boot here. Let's go ahead and remove this hardware. I'll clean that up before I put that back in. I'm going to go ahead and take that off, get that out of my way. We're going to want to get all this cleaned up. There's your intake boot. And the reed petals. So I got to be honest with you, these things look beautiful. There's no fraying on the tips. That's one of the things you want to look for is make sure that you have a good, on the corners, it's good and clean. It's not like starting to kind of come apart and stuff. These look great. And then another thing you want to look at is, are they lipping up or are they fully seated? You can hold it up in the light and see if you can see light coming through this area right here. If your eyes aren't good enough to kind of spot it right there. But man, these things look beautiful. That being said, though, I told you the story at the beginning of the video, my YZ250. They look beautiful too. I'm gonna go ahead and remove that. They look beautiful too. And however, when I put new reed pedals in it, I went to the track and I was actually kind of surprised with the performance. Of course, some people are going to mention this ring right here, or this space, if you want to keep it or leave it. That's up to you. You can pull it out. It does create a little bit of more pre-compression. That's the compression that when the piston is on its way down and it's compressing the charge in the crank area, and the reed valves are blocking it from going back into the intake. It can create a little bit more of that, but I haven't experimented yet on this bike with removing this and seeing what the actual real world results are. So I'm not going to go there now, but all right, let's go ahead and put the new reed pedals on. So observing this before I take it apart, if you notice on the forgot what you call these things right here, but you'll notice there's a little cut right here, and at an angle, you see this side is just round, and this side has this little cutout, and the reed pedal is the same. The reed pedal underneath here is rounded off at the edge, and this one has a little cut in. So that indicates to me that the reed pedals are directional. So you want to make sure you put these in on both sides on the right direction. Let me go ahead and loosen these screws up and get these out and go from there. That's right, these are called the stops, the reed pedal stops. Duh. And these are OEM, so they've never been taken apart before. When I loosened the screws up, I wanted to see how they had these positioned, because once you have it loose, you see a little bit of wiggle there. I was curious if from stock, if they had it all pressed all the way down and a little bit of play all the way down that way or up this way. And I actually found that they were both up that way. However, the reed pedals are pressed down in. There's a little bit of play in them too. They're pressed down in, and the stop is pressed out. So that's just an observation. I don't know if that's just the way they're putting them together like that. I don't know, but just an observation I had here. I will probably put them back together the same way because I really don't want to change anything. The bike's running great. Actually, I backtracked that after I pulled the other side apart and played around. I kind of noticed, or loosened up, I kind of noticed it was centered out. So I pulled the first one off, and it looks like the marks you can see are very centered out. So whatever play up and down seems as if, I don't know if they got lucky or if they're doing it by design, who knows. But it seems as if they got it centered out. So actually, I'm going to do my best when I'm reassembling these to center this out, because it does affect the tension. You see, I pulled this one off right here. Where it's bolted down, this flat spot right here affects the tension. The further you slide it up, the more tension it's going to have at the tip of the reed valve to open and close, and the further you push it down, the less tension. So it does affect the tension. So I'm just going to center it out, and I'm not looking to change anything today. I'm just looking to freshen her up. But anyway, I already pulled the Phillips out for this one, so let's see. There it is. These things are beautiful, but that doesn't mean they're not tired. I won't know until I take the bike on the track this weekend, and I will comment in the description of what I found after I take the track, if 100 hours I notice a difference or if I didn't. So let's continue on. All right, I have all these off before I install the new ones on. I already cleaned it with some gasoline and blew it off, but you want to make sure that these surfaces are really clean. You don't, not even a grain of sand. Can't have nothing on them when you go to put new pedals on if you want to get the best sealing performance out of them. Brand spanking new, isn't she pretty? For this I use blue Loctite on the threads. When you use the blue, just go for it, man. Let's see if I can get the focus here. Yeah, just fill it up. Choosing to use blue on this because these are Phillips heads, and if you use the red on it, which I use on pretty much everything else, but with these small Phillips, it's just better to use the blue to guarantee you won't have a problem getting the back out. It does have kind of a lock wash on it, but I don't want to have to rely on them. So let me seat this down lightly, and then I'm going to center this thing out the best I can, like I think that they came. So I'm pushing these pedals down, as you can see. So you want them pushed down, and I'm going to center this out. You see the up and down play it has there? I'm going to center it out the best I can here. So let me go ahead and do that. Actually, let me pause the camera. There. Actually, that wasn't too hard to do. What I did is while pressing these pedals down here, I snugged these down just tight enough where I was still able to slide this up and down. I pushed it all the way in, and I would see that it would just cover the bottom of the let me see, yeah, it would completely cover the bottom of the reed right here, and I'd pull it up and expose a lot, and then I just put it right in the middle of the two. So I got that centered out. I know I'm OCD in it here, but I warned you about that. That's what we're doing. There it is. Got them in. Did the same way to the other side here. So yeah, it's looking good. So I guess it's a good time to talk about V-Force reeds. I'm sure people might be asking what about V-Force reeds or whatever. They are good reeds. Yeah, the V-Force reeds are good. Basically, they just use twice as many reed petals as this does, and so which, I mean, it's only going to flow so much air because the motor's only going to demand so much air. So they technically they don't have to open as far to get the same airflow because you have twice as many reed petals crammed in the same little housing. And I believe, I used to believe that was good for reed pedal wear since they don't have to open and close as much. Maybe you get extended life out of it. Some people claim it's a performance increase, but I don't see it. I've gone back and forth before in the past and haven't noticed it. Well, actually, specifically, my brother has gone back and forth in the past, and we didn't notice any difference. Yeah, when my brother was going back and forth, he didn't notice any performance change, and I've spoken to other tuners, and they claim that the V-Force doesn't. It might help very light throttles because you have twice as many reeds, so they can crack open a little bit real easily, and it does seem to crispen the very light throttles, but otherwise you're not going to really see a horsepower increase or anything like that V-Force reeds. And one tuner explained it to me like this. He's like, just the fact that they brag that there's no jetting changes needed, and that you usually don't have to change your jetting when you move from stock to V-Force reeds, indicates that that it's not really changing the power characteristics of the bike or anything. On that kind of made sense to me. I know that these stock reeds and these Yamahas, they do perform great, and there's no complaint about these things. I mean, the whole, the YZ250 motor is just a good performing motor. You can add modifications on top of it smartly and not ruin that, and it just gets better and better. But these reeds are really good, so that's why I'm choosing to stick with these stockers for now. Now, when you replace reed pedals, though, I will say avoid using the I forgot what they call it. It's the clear ones, like the Boyson dual stage ones that instead of the carbon fiber, they're just like a clear fiberglass or whatever. I haven't had good luck with them in the past. They usually do affect the jetting, and they don't seem to last very long. They start lipping up. I like the carbon fiber myself, and I like to stick with the stocker carbon fibers myself. So yeah, so let's go ahead and start putting this back in. Now here's a part that I'm going to get a little OCD with. You see I have the reed cage, you know, together here with the bolts in place. And there's always a little wiggle right here. If you look up in here, you'll see, you see the edge of that kind of exposing. Obviously it's going to be less wiggle once these bolts are tight, or you know, in their hole. It's going to be less wiggle. But when I get on the bike, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to position this rubber boot where all four corners are centered, so it's not like up here where you got a big lip that's causing turbulence, and it's not down here where you have a big lip down there that's causing, or off to the side where you have a big lip there. I'm going to try to get it centered out so that it's the smoothest airflow, the path for the airflow. There's no lip causing turbulence. So that's why I positioned that up like that, so I can get my head up in there and feel around. Let's see if I can get you up in here. I have all the bolts in, bottomed out, but light enough that I can slide this around. You see when I put it up, you see that big white spot right there? That's actually a lip, and that's gonna, if I tighten up right there, that's gonna be causing turbulence on the intake. If I press it down, their lip is rounded off, so when I press it down, the white that you see here is just the rounded part. That's more like it should be rounded off. And then as far as left and right, I'm going to favor pushing it to the left here to get it away from, because there's a little bit of a lip on this side, and even though they rounded it off a little bit, but it's bigger than this on this side. So I'm going to push it this way, and that's a nice, yeah, that's good right there. It's all rounded off, so that'll be, so I'm going to push it down and that way. I'm going to push it down and that way. Basically, I'm going to press right here as I tighten this up to get it in the position I want. So that, here we go, got the light now, you can see. You see how big it is when I push it to the right? You see that? Push it to the left, it exposes the rounded part a little bit, but when I push it to the right, it literally, like, it's falling into a hole here. So I'll push it this way on the rounded spot. It has the rounded spot here, and push it down, and that's going to be good. Alright, so the carburetor back up in here and cleaned everything up and stuff too. Now I just have to get the throttle slide in. Alright, I got it. And I'm not saying that the V-Force reeds are bad reeds. They're actually good reeds. I just don't think they're any better than the stockers on this bike. Other bikes might be different, but for this bike, the stock reeds are really good. Alright, got that in place. Now I just have to put the two Phillips in, center the carburetor back out on its boot, and tighten up the throttle cable here. Okay, got that all done. Tighten up the clamp right here on this side, and on the other side I reconnected all the connectors after I cleaned them up and everything. Now I'm going to drop the subframe down and pivot it and get the intake boot onto the carburetor. After you drop the subframe on it, sometimes you just gotta take a flathead and kind of help it out a little bit. You just take a flathead, put it right here behind the, not the clamp, but the boot, the little lip, and you can do the same thing on the other side to kind of help fully seat it. And I'm gonna go ahead and check it now and tighten it down, tighten the Phillips down. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put the lower subframe bolts back in, put in a dab of Loctite on them so they don't vibrate out while I'm riding. The shorty silencer on the other side of the seat, and then we're going to fire her up. Okay, let's give her a test fire. sounding good. That's just it, guys. Out with the old and in with the new. So these are still in good shape. I don't know how they perform versus the new ones. I'll know this weekend. So if you check back on the in the description of the video after I ride it this weekend, I will post in there whether or not it actually made a difference at 100 hours for me or not. I'll find out this weekend, if the weather permits, that is. Also, a subscriber sent me an Apex head to go ahead and test out and do a review. The head, I sent 2 domes. One was the MX dome and the other one was the XC dome, which is like your off-road woods dome. And I'm looking to review these heads hopefully this weekend if the weather permits. So stay tuned for that. If you enjoy this kind of stuff, please click like and subscribe. I not only focus on YZ250s, but all dirt bikes in general. It's just this is the one that I own right now. I also own a YZ450 that I ride as well. I kind of go back and forth, but I cover different bikes and repairs and modifications and maintenance and you name it. So if you like this kind of stuff, please click like and subscribe. I'm going to keep making these videos. I appreciate all you guys sitting through this and watching, and I hope you have a good evening. Talk to you later. Bye.